Hi, Claire and James here. Just before we get stuck into this week's episode, we wanted to let you know the exciting news that the Midlife Reset audit is now live. This is a first of its kind personalised diagnostic tool designed for midlifers by midlifers.
In just 3 minutes, the audit will help you pinpoint what's really holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife, and most importantly, provide tailored strategies on how to take back control. Midlife doesn't have to be a time of uncertainty. It can be an era of growth, discovery, and well-being. So to go ahead and take the audit, go to themidlifementors.com/audit.
By the time we hit midlife, it's highly likely we've experienced a lot of disappointments and things just generally not turning out the way we expected them to. This can often crush our spirit, leading to self-doubt, negative self-talk, and a feeling of hopelessness. Perhaps we even give up on our dreams.
So in this episode, we discuss what causes disappointment in the first place, and we also offer up 10 ways to move through it so you can begin the journey of regaining your energy, confidence, and faith that things will get better with time. Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with myself, James.
And me, Claire. How are you? We were a bit naughty. We forgot to do, well, we didn't forget to do one. We didn't do one last week.
We were very busy, Claire.
Last week was, honestly, we have been so crazy busy. James has been running around all over the place, running workshops on menopause, andropause.
All kinds of things.
Going to lunch meetings, schmoozing.
Yeah.
And then last Saturday we did an event together, speaking event together. That was great fun.
We did. So that was like an international conference for breakup and divorce coaches. And we were on stage basically talking about our own relationship lessons and the things we work on clients with. And that was really well received. It was a great event, actually. Really, really great event.
And James has been in the Metro.
I've been in the Metro. It's
Goodness
a tiny
nice.
Little mention.
I know, but
yeah,
still.
I ran a workshop for HSBC on the andropause, so low testosterone for men, which again was really well received by them. Hundreds of their team tuned in for that, and really, really, really great feedback.
We were doing it's Men's Health Awareness Month, November, isn't it? So
it is. Well, I also ran my Optimum Performance Blueprint as well, which had some guys on there, and that gave us some tools that really helped them as well.
They even sent you a present.
I got sent a present, which was always nice.
A box of chocolates, which actually we've nearly made our way through, and I think it only arrived yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, we think we're doing well. We're rationing them well.
It's Christmas. We're allowed to binge
nearly
it.
Christmas. We have had our first mince pie. We cracked the other day.
Yeah,
I think
Christmassy.
we went for a walk around Hampstead and we saw that they had put the main Christmas tree up with lights on, and then we felt obliged to go and buy a box of Mr. Kipling's. Other
Very
brands
yummy.
are available. Mince pies. And we had one each.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the topic of this podcast today. Now, this has kind of come out of a post. A lot of the time, there's a running theme. There's something that comes up for me, and then I share it on an email to our list or a post. And then I get responses from it. And so I realise it's kind of resonated, or James does the same. And today we're going to talk about dealing with disappointment. And I think this is something that everyone will resonate with.
Well, you had a lot of people reach out to you off the back of your post about it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which is why we're covering it today in the podcast.
Yeah, and I think that's come out obviously from our own experience, the highs and lows of life, of relationships, of failed marriages, but also the business side of things as well. You know, some things have really landed for us in our business. Sometimes they haven't. Sometimes we've had crushing disappointments of projects that we thought were going to take off and haven't. And so we both just wanted to really go through on this podcast what the nature of disappointment, like why why we feel so disappointed and to go through some of those reasons, because you're not alone. It's something that we're all experiencing, particularly at midlife, where we've had quite a lot of blows and quite a lot of potential failures and things like that. And then we're going to give you 10 tips for actually moving through that disappointment, because that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, we're going to help you reframe it actually to see it, like the upside, the more positive aspects of it, because it's obviously there for a reason, right? It's signposting you towards something, and we're going to delve into what it could be signposting you towards.
Yeah, and I think really I want to share that own personal experience, because as you know, I'm sure if you've listened to this podcast for a while now, beginning of last year, I had burnout, and I genuinely believe it was just because, well, not just because, but it was mainly due to a series of just disappointments and my expectations being at a certain place, and my perfectionism. Again, we're going to talk about some of this. These things that we're going to talk to you about, I really recognise definitely in myself, and I can't speak for James, but I definitely recognise them in myself. And that just got so bad, like in my head, it just got so crushing that I was inert. I completely burnt out, because of those expectations were not met. And then I felt like a failure, and that, I wasn't of value, and all those kinds of things. So that's where this has come about from as well, my own personal experience, and how we've moved through that together as a couple.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I mean, I've definitely had my share of disappointments in life. Too many to go through.
Yeah.
But, a saying of mine is like, don't look back, you're not going that way. But it's often instructive to take the lesson from what's happened and see, right, okay, how can I apply that going forward? And I think that's the key thing we need to take from disappointment is yes, to allow ourselves to acknowledge it and feel it, but not sit there in the place of it too long before we learn the lesson and move forward again.
Don't get like me, where you end up just feeling crushed, really crushed by it. And actually, the phrase I heard once, which really resonated with me, was the disease of disappointment. Like, it can literally infiltrate you to a point where it feels like the disease of disappointment. It can take over, like, your body, your mind, your soul, if you let it.
Exactly.
So let's go into what a definition really of disappointment is. It really does. Disappointment happens when reality falls short of our expectations, hopes, and desires. And it's that emotional response to an unmet goal or desire. And there is a purpose to disappointment. It is that signal which is telling us that there's something about our values, our needs, or attachments. We can, like James has just said, we can learn the lessons from these disappointments. It really does give us a signpost to what our values are and what's important in our life. So we're going to go through some of the psychological reasons for disappointment now. Shall I hand over to you to go through the psychological reasons?
Yeah, I think it's important to say as we go through, just bear in mind, because Claire mentioned there that disease disappointment is fairly easy to get to that place where you have, particularly if you have a series of disappointments, just be like, well, that's
what's the
it.
point?
Okay, what's the point? I'm just not going to try anything. And listen, we totally get that.
I've been there.
But I think as human beings, we're designed to be in growth. So it is about, acknowledging it, being sad for a while, but then dusting yourself off and moving forward. So I think that's what we want you to take away from this podcast today.
And we are going to give you those 10 tips at the end.
Tips, yeah. So let's look at the reasons. Well, the first one, of course, is unrealistic expectations. Yeah, which is, might sound obvious, but this could be anything, right? From just thinking, I'm going to launch that side hustle business. I'm sure it'll make me 10 million in the next 6 months. When you haven't really thought it through, even to the little things like, why does my car keep breaking down? Like, why does this keep happening? Well, maybe because you're not maintaining it or looking after it properly. We often overestimate how much control we have over, the success factors of the things that we do and external factors as well, right? And we can see this all the time in the world. People have genius ideas, and they launch them, and it's just not the right time for them. And then 10 years later or 5 years later, someone else will come along with a very similar thing and it will take off and be amazing because it was the right time. So, there's external factors, there's internal factors. And I think particularly with social media now, we have unrealistic societal benchmarks. I mean, we've always had them, right? But social media just amplifies it with that social comparison. You should have achieved X by now. If you're not a millionaire by the time you're 30, you've somehow failed. And these can amplify this point. We're holding ourselves up to these unrealistic benchmarks. The second thing we do is once we fall into that place of disappointment, we start to look for confirmation bias. We're looking for signs that things will work out, and we start to become a bit blind to potential obstacles. There might be all kinds of amber lights flashing on the dashboard telling us that there's an imminent problem coming, but we decide to over-ignore it. We're like, no, I'm on the right track. I'm just going to ignore all those red flags and keep going.
We've done this. We've done this in business so
It's natural
much.
to do, right? Because you almost want the result so much. You're so invested in the result, and I know you're going to talk about this next, that you overlook like the warning signs that are there. And that's a massive one.
Yeah. So James has just mentioned there the emotional investment. This is again like my experience. You do vision boards, and you do vision boards for your life, and you do all the affirmations, and you do all the manifestation techniques and tricks and all this kind of stuff. And what you give out, you get back, and what your thoughts create things, all of that stuff. And you can really build up this emotional investment into the life that you want to have, or that goal, that desire. And when you've got that much invested in it, the fall can feel really, really hard. So that's another like psychological reason for how we can feel so disappointed, because we've really like egged it up, and we really believe that it should be a certain way. Our life should look a certain way because that's how we've mapped it out. Also, James has kind of touched on this already, but that comparison to others is a killer. It really just does give that false sense of where we should be in comparison to where we actually are. I was having a coaching call with someone earlier on today, and the idea of acceptance is such a key part of really dealing with disappointment. I'm kind of going into a tip here and a tool, but for me, that the first thing I had to do when I realised that I had the disease of disappointment was to surrender and to accept rather than keep on fighting against what was. Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing, right? So that all these points together, right? This is where you're like, you speak to someone, they're like, I don't understand. I found this guy on TikTok. He had his Lambo parked in front of his private jet. He had this foolproof system. I paid my $2,000 to buy it, and I'm just making nothing. I'm losing money.
Yeah.
Like, what's gone wrong here?
Yeah. I know. It's these false expectations. It's a false sense of reality. It's the emotional investment. It's comparing ourselves to where we should be. And this all like creates a massive fall. Also, cultural and generational influences. One of the things is quite specific to us midlifers, but also baby boomers, right? We grew up in a world where we were promised that upward mobility and career success and stable relationships and finances, that kind of American dream narrative, the 80s, the 90s, it was like a real woohoo, you can have anything you want. And actually, again, those expectations that are cultural to us, they haven't necessarily lived up to their mark. We're like, hang on a minute. We were promised all of this stuff, all this happiness, this contentment, this kind of lifestyle. Where the F is it?
Well, I'll tell you, the wheels fell off the bus in 2007-8, didn't they?
Yeah.
With the
media.
advent of social media, tablet phones, and the recession that came in 2008. I'd argue that the wheels have never gone back on the bus properly since then.
I know, exactly.
Also, we get cultural messages, and again, this is particularly prevalent with social media. I was laughing now about the picture of the guy. Just follow this system. You can do it. You can do anything. Follow your dreams. There's so many people like selling you dreams now, right? And of course, we want that dream. We want that end result. We invest our time, we invest our energy, we invest our money, and it simply doesn't materialize because it was a fallacy in the first place. But that can be like a big disappointment. And I'd argue there's more and more of those cultural messages out there now. You used to have to look for them, I guess, like in the back of magazines and comic books if you're of that age. But now it's just pushed to you through your feed all the time.
Well, again, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday about coaches. The coaching world is completely saturated now, and they're all promising if you follow this trick. And it could be anything. It's not just business. It's like finding your true soulmate. It's literally everything. If you follow...
Set up an Etsy store.
Yeah.
Drop shipping.
Yeah. If you follow this, crypto. If you follow this, you will make it rich, or you will find your dream love. You will get your dream house. You'll get the dream lifestyle. And it's all these cultural messages, this positivity, this faux positivity that really gets us. It's got us. You know, we've hired business coaches after business coaches. Some have been good, some have been absolutely shit and let us down, which gives us crushing disappointment. There are also personal and relational factors, like the stories we tell ourselves. Again, I've done this. We create narratives about their life. You know, by the time I'm 40, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to have that house, that car, that relationship. And again, when reality diverges from that, disappointment hits really hard.
And I think, again, there's that cultural element to that. You know, for us that are in midlife now, we did grow up with that expectation. By the time we hit this point in life, you know, everything will be great for us. But the world has not turned out in that fashion.
No, absolutely.
Another one is obviously Claire's old favourite, perfectionism.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Perfectionism? What?
And setting unattainably high goals, so overachievement. So again, this is just thinking, you know, it's that mismanagement of expectations, I guess. Like, oh, I can definitely achieve this in this time with these resources, and then you can't, and it leads to chronic disappointment.
Yes, this is me. This is so me. The overachievement, the kind of like that validation that I needed, that overachievement validation that I now am so happy that I have surrendered and let go. I now know in the deepest part of me that I am enough. There's not any external factors. And, you know, we can speak about this, and I know that we've spoken about this for many years. Don't look for external validation, but we all do. And even I felt so much like real prey to this. And this is so lovely to now know that overachievement, it was just kind of actually some unhealed trauma within me, actually kind of constantly wanting to be validated, to be seen and to be heard and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, look into that perfectionism, people, and that overachievement.
Okay, let's look at ways you can move through the disappointment. And we got 10 tips for you here. The first one is like, just don't ignore it, right? Again, that's a natural thing. It's like, disappointed, I'm just going to push that down and pretend it hasn't happened. No, that will just intensify it. Just allow yourself to feel it without judgment. You know, like I say, spend time being sad if you want to. Sometimes it means, you know, we have wasted a big chunk of time or a big chunk of money and a lot of energy. Fine, mourn that, you know, go through the grieving process. But put a name to it, go, I'm feeling disappointed because, you know, be honest about it. Because this thing that I was expecting this from didn't work out and I feel terrible about it. And yeah, give yourself that permission to agree those unmet expectations.
Permission is really, really important, actually. Except if that kind of goes into that acceptance and surrender, give yourself permission to feel it. I'd say also challenge your inner critic. This is number 2. Disappointment will trigger really harsh self-talk. Again, I'm laughing. This is just me, which can absolutely, of course, worsen the experience. So when you notice those negative thoughts, just be aware of them, and then maybe try to start, when you're journaling, reframe them with kindness. Okay, so this didn't go as planned. I'm disappointed because of this. I'm going to give myself permission to feel disappointed. It didn't go as planned, but I'm learning from this. What am I learning from this? I am learning from this. Just try to reframe that really harsh inner critic.
Yeah, I think this one's really important because the temptation, and this is speaking like from personal experiences, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're like, that thing didn't work. So just like, I just don't even want to look at it again. But actually, if you break it down rationally, they'll be like, okay, well, overall it didn't work, but what did I get from it? This bit was actually worked. I've developed this thing here. I've got this extra knowledge. There will be positives in there somewhere.
You're jumping ahead there, mister.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
one of my tips, but that's all right.
My one is, reflect on the cause and learn the lessons. I guess that
is kind of what
linked.
you're saying, actually. Yeah.
You know, but asking yourself questions like, you know, were my expectations realistic to start with? Were there factors that were outside my control that I just simply didn't consider? Is disappointment rooted in comparison or societal pressure? I.e., you know, maybe this project wasn't even for me, but I just felt that I should do it for some reason. And now I feel a bit stupid because I realised it was just, you know, cultural pressure that made me think I should be doing it.
Again, like we've experienced that
we
too.
have.
Like we've actually had to sit and go, why did we do that project? Why did we launch that thing? Was it based on necessity, the state of the world? What we were kind of, were we feeling like that was our only option? it's really good to reflect on that, actually. And maybe our values have changed as well. What we did want at one point in our business and in our life has shifted and changed so much that actually that doesn't serve us anymore. The next thing is to adjust your expectations. Number 4 is the fact that recalibrating your expectations can reduce future letdowns and make sure you align your goals with reality. Again, that overachievement, that unrealistic expectation in a certain time frame is where I fell down massively. So break those large goals down into smaller achievable steps and practice being flexible with those expectations. Really ask yourself, is it realistic and achievable to reach that in that time with the skills that I currently have? And also just make sure that you keep saying to yourself, this might not go perfectly. It might not go exactly the way I want it to, and that's okay. I'm going to end up where I am meant to be in the end.
Shift your perspective. So, at the time it can feel all consuming, but if we can step back and take a broader view, we can learn our lessons. Consider what went right, what you learned, and then ask yourself, will this matter in 3 months, 6 months, a year's time? Probably not. And we frame those setbacks as stepping stones rather than dead ends.
Absolutely. The next one is take action. This is so important. Again, this is from my own experience. You can become that disease of disappointment can infiltrate you so much. You get so much self-doubt. You think, what's the point? I'm just going to become a nerd. Well, you don't even think that. You just stop. And you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what's the actual point? And actually, again, once you've had that grieving process, once you've, had those moments of, oh my goodness, this is just terrible, what's happened, what I would suggest then is you do take some small steps to help you regain a sense of control and forward momentum. So just identify some simple things that you can control and focus on that, certain things that you can take action on. And also, it's really important to say that if you need closure from a disappointment, something that hasn't turned out quite the way you wanted to, once you've got the energy and you've got over that real dark night of the soul around it, maybe you might want to have some constructive conversations or revisit a situation, have those conversations and maybe have a fresh plan. Is there a new way that you can look at this?
Practice gratitude, and this is such a big one. Like we talked at the start about the disease of disappointment, how it can become all-consuming. Well, the way you can counterbalance that is to focus on like what you have got that's positive in your life. What are the good things that are around you? Focus on what you do have rather than what you potentially just missed out on. So a simple practice for there is write down 3 things you're grateful for daily. This is something we bang on about all the time. And just reflect where things that you were disappointed about at the time maybe actually gave you something great down the track, because you will have some of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really, really key. Number 8 is take care of your body, okay? Because we know physically, this is one of the things that goes out the window when disappointment hits and it really, really shakes you. You might not prioritize your physical well-being, but it really helps support emotional resilience. It really helps reduce that stress. We know that. So exercise to release endorphins, get plenty of sleep and eat nourishing food. And also practice relaxation techniques like deep breathing, meditation, all that kind of stuff. It's really important that you prioritize your health around this.
Tip 9 is just remember to celebrate your effort. Like if it didn't lead to the desired outcome, it didn't lead to it. Doesn't matter. You've built resilience. So reflect on the courage it took to try and hold on to that, because that will give you the courage to try again. Remember to reward yourself for the effort you took, even if that's just a mental reward. You took a step forward. You did something. You took a risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that leads on to our final point, really. Number 10, which is embrace the bigger picture. Life is full of disappointments, but it can lead us down unexpected paths that bring joy and fulfillment later on down the line. Life is a funny thing. Sometimes the thing that creates the most crushing disappointment is actually sometimes the biggest gift. We might not see that at the time. We often might not want to hear that at the time. You might be listening to this going, no, Claire, I can't even see that right now. But if you look back over your life, some of those things that were taken away from you or withheld from you might have actually led you down a path that you're now grateful for. So it's really important to embrace that bigger picture. Remind yourself that setbacks are part of the human experience. And like I said, remind yourself of some of those things that have happened in the past that did actually lead you to new, surprising, magical ways. And again, James is laughing there because the crushing disappointments that we've even had in the 9-10 years we've been together, like honestly, feels like we've been together double that amount because just of how much of life that we've experienced in that time. But we have experienced running a business together, living life together. We've experienced lots of crushing disappointments. And I wouldn't genuinely, hand on heart, change any of it. We have grown so much. I've learned so much about myself. Our marriage has grown. Our business is growing in ways that feel really aligned with our values. So, yeah. And I suppose just to summarize, how disappointment can actually serve us. It can be a learning tool, right?
Yeah, basically it helps us recalibrate our expectations and align our actions with reality, you know. Otherwise we can get stuck in this dream state of like, if I do this, I'll get this. Well, let's get grounded in reality. Let's make specific plans. Let's break those plans down so we can hit achievable goals. And we can reflect on what really matters. So we're not just chasing a rainbow all the time. We're like, okay, what's important to me? Let me make sure I do use my energy, my time, my resources on the right thing.
Yeah, disappointment can really refocus your mind. I think that's something that I've experienced so much. This crushing disappointment has really made me focus on what I think is important in my life. And those are the really simple things. It's life, it's love, it's my family, my friends. It's not all these big things. It's not all material things. It's not success. It's not validation.
I say, let's not sugarcoat it though. Like, disappointment sucks.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
there. It sucks. It sucks, the fat one. But, you know.
It really does.
Here's the other thing.
Does.
Life is going to give you disappointments. So we can't avoid it. So let's establish a different relationship with it. Let's establish a more positive relationship with it that we can go, oh, yeah, okay, that sucked. I'm sad. But let me just learn my lesson and move on and find the next thing.
And know that actually it can be that catalyst for growth. You know, it can spur new ideas, creativity, problem solving, resilience. So I hope that's helped for you. I know that that's something that we really wanted to share, something that people were responding to my post, my email about. We're with you guys. If you're listening to this, experiencing a crushing disappointment right now, we're with you. We know what it feels like. We really, really do. And just know that above the clouds, the sun is still shining, that you will move through this. And that old saying, which is horrible at the time and no one wants to hear it, but time does heal. It really can heal, and you really can learn from this. It's not going to last forever. So just hold tight, have even a seed of faith and a seed of hope will see you through. And let us know what your thoughts on this are. If you've got any ideas for any podcast episodes, do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. team@themidlifementors.com. And we're sending so much love.
Till next time.
Bye.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.